UPod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/UPodStreet, and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPodStreet at checkout, and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold, because it's on to UPod Street. All right, welcome to UPod Street. As always, I am Jimmy Horn, and joining me is the birthday boy, Jack Bain. Jack, how does it feel to be having a UPod Street on your birthday?
Hey man, it's been on the calendar. It's been on the calendar. Saw it today. It was a Sunday. Couldn't be more hyped for it, man.
Hey, in 2 weeks, I will have a UPod Street birthday as well.
There you go.
Our birthdays are exactly 2 weeks apart. Does that make you feel closer and more connected with me? Or do you just think that I'm weird?
Jimmy, I've never felt more connected to you in my life, pal.
All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about this week. A lot of interesting things going on with the Orioles as we enter the month of May. Jack, you want to start us off with notes from around the league?
Yeah, so as we finish up the first week in May, not a whole lot of change, honestly, since the last time we talked. Rays top the AL East still 28-7. Still on a tear with a run differential of plus 115. I mean, what did you think about Wander Franco spinning the ball?
It's at this point like at what point do you just go, are we in a simulation and the Rays are just being played by like someone playing a video game? Because that was just wild. The bigger thing in this series, the bigger story was who was it? Arozarena hit a home run, did a pimp job, and then got plunked his next 2 times up at bat. And the Rays manager got thrown out, and no one from the Yankees got thrown out.
Yeah, I mean, if I were the last place Yankees and a guy who hit a home run against me stopped rounding third base, I'd probably hit him too. So, I don't care.
I believe the cool thing about that home run was they had just introduced like that special section in Tampa Bay where if Randy Arozarena hits a home run, they all get free beer.
Huh.
And like literally they introduced it that game, and like first inning he hit a home run.
That's awesome. I can't believe they have to do that to get people in the stadium though.
That's what wild. Like they are on a historically like good year, and that's what they have to do to get fans in the stadium. And the section wasn't even filled when they showed the replay. The section wasn't even filled.
21 games above 500, and you gotta promote free beer to get people in seats.
All right, what else we got going on around the league?
So your Orioles are 22-12. They're second place in the AL East with a 2-game advantage in the wild card. Toronto, they have won 3 in a row to open up May. They're 21-14. Boston playing some good baseball right now at 21-15. And then your New York Yankees, who are 10 games out of a playoff spot at this moment, or 10 games out of the division lead, 10 games out of the division, 2.5 out of the wild card. They are 18-17 in the basement of the AL East. The armpit of the American League, the AL Central, the Twins are atop at 19-16. And then everybody else under 500, as well as a negative run differential. Something cool to note about Cleveland, though, is that they are calling up a lot of big prospects that have been in the works. Thank you, Brady. Yeah, so guys like Tanner Bybee coming up, throwing gas. It's really fun to watch the Guardians' young core play some ball. Unfortunately, it's not showing for them in the win and loss column. They are
What
in
I think will
second.
be interesting with the Guardians bringing up more young players is they've shown that they're not afraid to do big contracts with young players. Um, I think that's kind of a new experiment in baseball. Because for a long time, I think it's always been waiting till like the last 2 years or so
Yeah,
of a guy's contract and saying like, yeah, it's worth it to sign him to a long term
yeah,
contract. I know, Orioles fans, everyone's calling for Adley to be extended already and things like that because you have teams like the Guardians that like year two into a guy's major league career, they're
yeah.
signing long term.
And the Braves.
In the Braves, yeah. I'm
I
gonna
mean,
be interested
oh,
how that works out because you do kind of wonder, like, can you tell within the first 2 years with some guys that, like, oh, yeah, they're gonna be a stud for a long, long time? Or is it like are they gonna be flash in the pan type guys? Are they gonna be good for, like, a couple years and then kinda trail off? Are they gonna be worth those massive contracts in, like, 6 years or something like that? It's an interesting experiment. I think there's, um a lot of benefit to it, and I think there's a lot of risk to it as well. But the Guardians are one of those teams that's kind of leading that
yeah.
new philosophy.
Well, in that same breath, you think about Ronald Acuna is on one of those pre-arb deals, and Michael Harris is on a pre-arb deal. All those big guys that the Braves have that we just saw over the weekend, I mean, they're all on pre-arb deals, and they're proving that they're worth a pre-arb deal, especially a guy like Acuna, who's a stud. But anyways, we'll get into the Brave series here in a little
Oh yeah, we got a lot to talk about with that.
bit. In the AL West, Texas still at the top at 20-13, followed by the LA Angels. The LA Angels are 19-16 in second place, 2 games out of first place and a game and a half out of the wild card. Houston and Seattle share a 17-17 record, and then the lowly A's at 8-27.
Did you
After the
see, by the
Brewer,
way, the A's broadcast what they did?
no, not the broadcast. I saw their ticket package for all of the summer home games for like
Yeah,
$99.
$90 or something to go to all the home games. No, one of their broadcasters, they were in Kansas City and they went to the Negro Leagues baseball museum,
Oh my God! Yeah, I did see that.
and the guy used another N word to say what museum they went to. So not only are
Yeah,
like the Oakland Athletics just crashing hard as they're like planning their move to Las Vegas, but like their broadcast team is as well.
yeah. Not too much to say about that, other than it's a mighty bad look.
Yeah.
Um, in the NL, in the East, the Braves, after their series win over the weekend, improved to 24-11 and extend their lead over the Marlins and Mets to 7 games. Miami and New York share a 17-18 record. Now, if you told me these Mets would have a 17-18 record at my birthday, I would say you're full of it, pal. But here they are, under 500 in May.
How much are they
Philadelphia,
spending again? How much are they
too much,
spending?
dude.
A lot of money to be mediocre.
$500 million on 2 guys, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Philly and Washington. Washington, don't let them get hot. They're coming up on the Phillies. Phillies are 16-19, and the Nats are 14-20.
The Phillies, who just got Bryce Harper back after Tommy John
Yeah,
surgery in what, November? And
yeah,
he's back in May.
the fastest time to ever recover from Tommy John surgery, which is insane.
Yeah, look at that comment. There is indeed a Mac cameo behind me. My dog, for those of you that are listening on the podcast, my dog is making an appearance on video right now.
Thank you, Mac, for your service.
Her
In the
presence is welcome.
in the NL Central, Pittsburgh Pirates Magic. You know, they've lost 7 in a row, which isn't great. You never
No.
want to drop 7 in a row. But they have a series coming up against the Rockies at home. They could turn it around. They're still a winning record. They're 20-15.
For
Still a
more
half.
hot takes from Jack, such as you don't want to lose 7 games in a row, make sure to follow him on Twitter at JackBain20.
We should put that on a T-shirt. You never want to lose 7 games in a row.
This is the kind of hard-hitting analysis you get here at UPod Street.
They Pirates still have the half a game lead over the Brewers, who are 19-15, followed by the 500 Cubs at 17-17, the Reds at 14-20, and the Cardinals at 11-24. The Reds, Ellie De La Cruz, down in AAA for him. I saw a clip of him that the Louisville bats were down like 14 runs, but Ellie De La Cruz gets his swing off. I thought for sure this ball was popped way up in center field, and it just left. The ball left. It was a home run. Like I was like, there's no way this ball's leaving. Dude, he is a freak. Ellie De La Cruz is a freak.
All right, put it down in your notes. Look out for Ellie De La Cruz when he comes up.
In the West, the Dodgers have finally righted the ship in a series with the Phillies over the weekend. They have won 7 of their last 10. They are 20-14 and overtook the Diamondbacks for first place in the West. Diamondbacks are 19-15 still. Like the Diamondbacks, still like my ticket on over wins for them. Followed by the Padres, Giants, and Rockies in that order. And that's what's going on around the league, man. A lot of good baseball this weekend. Including the Orioles.
Yeah, lots of stuff to dissect this week from the Orioles. We're gonna take it all the way back, but before we do, I just wanted to give a quick plug for our Splash Zone event. As Mac, I don't know if you heard that in the microphone. She just sighed so hard at me. She's like, "Don't plug this event." What a horrible idea. I didn't realize I was going to have a co-host tonight within my room. No, so the Splash Zone event, make sure everybody mark your calendars. Tuesday, May 30th, we're doing the $10 bleacher seats in section 96 and 98. We're starting to get a little bit of traction with that. People reaching out, double checking the date and stuff like that. Remember, the theme is going along with the Orioles celebration, so we want to go kind of like a waterworks themes, goggles, water wings, Hawaiian shirts, all sorts of stuff like that. I think it's going to be a really fun time. They were talking about it on the broadcast this weekend, how Camden Yards is really starting to come alive as this team is getting better and better. And so let's all be a part of it. Again, that's Tuesday, May 30th. Sections 96 and 98 get those $10 bleacher seat deals. All right. So moving on to this week in Orioles baseball. First, we're going to go all the way back to, I believe it was Monday, when we started our series against the Kansas City Royals. Tuesday. That's right. We had Monday off. That's a rough. What do you do on off days, by the way? Because I don't know what to do with myself when we have off days.
Well, honestly, there's a quick plug here. I just finished up coaching for a high school team. Lost a heartbreaker in the semifinals, but that's basically what fills my time up when the Orioles aren't playing. Went into extras, heartbreaker, lost 3-2. It's a great season.
Wow. Well, everyone in Orioles Nation knows how you feel today. Yeah. So Tuesday we started the series against Kansas City. Pretty solid win overall for the Orioles, who would go on to win this one 11-7. After a 3-run first inning from Tyler Wells, he would settle in and go 6 innings pitched. He gave up 3 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 3 home runs in this. So the long ball was a little bit of a problem for Tyler Wells, but he did go 6 complete innings, which for this starting pitcher staff is no short task. It's a very good thing for that to happen. The Orioles offense would wake up in a big way. I mean, obviously they scored 11 runs. They had a 5-run 4th inning that included a Ryan Mountcastle home run and RBI singles from Cedric Mullins and James McCann. They would go on to score 6 more runs in the game, which included another Ryan Mountcastle home run, an Adley double, and also a Ryan Mountcastle double. Warning to the MLB: don't let Ryan Mountcastle get hot, because when he's on, he will make you pay in a big way. The bullpen would end up making it a little bit more interesting than necessary. Mike Bauman, who has been a stud all season, has started to slide a bit. He would only go 2/3 of an innings pitch. He would give up 3 hits and 3 runs on a 3-run home run. He did get 2 strikeouts for those 2/3 of the inning, but definitely a big slide there for Bauman. Brian Baker and Yannier Cano would close out the game. How do you like, Jack, Brian Baker when he's on his little moonwalk off the field?
Well, when you strike out the side and you're one inning of work in this game, I mean, you can do whatever you want. I like it. I like it.
I like it a lot. I like when Brian Baker shows confidence. I think one of
Mm-hmm.
the biggest things when he struggled early on last season is he seemed to lack a lot of confidence. And when he's getting fired up and when he's kind of doing that jump and when he's doing that little like backwards moonwalk off the
Yeah.
field, I think that shows that he has a lot of confidence and he's pitching really, really well. So I like when he shows that emotion.
Yeah. No, doubt. I feel like when he's confident too, all of his like specs will kind of increase too. Like you see his velo go up, you see the control kind of hone in. When I mean, it's a feel good, play good kind of situation for him. If he can string together a lot of good appearances in a row, I mean, you know, he's unhittable. I mean, we saw it at the end of last year. I mean, and after this game, he dropped his ERA down to a 1.7, which is awesome.
Yeah, you love to see it. Um, Game two, not so great for the Orioles. This was a pretty pathetic game all around for the O's. Um, Honestly, I don't know if you watched this, Jack, live, but when I was watching it, it felt like pretty early on the Orioles just had like zero heart in this game.
Yeah, it seemed like they just came out flat, and I mean, you can tell that with any kind of baseball game. If the boys come out flat, you're not winning the game.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, with that, they kind of squandered what had started as a pretty good start for Kyle Gibson. He only gave up 2 runs until he got to like the 7th inning. And Kyle Gibson's role is to go as long as possible to save that bullpen, and he was doing that. He would go 6 2/3 innings pitched. Now it started to go south for him in the 7th inning. He gave up 10 hits, 6 runs total. He got no walks, but also no strikeouts in this outing. But he went deep into the game, and I just felt like once he got to that second out in the 7th inning, he didn't have anything left, and I mean, he had no run support.
Hard to win a game when you don't score any runs.
Yeah. The offense did not show up this game at all. They had 6 hits, but 0 runs. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, so this game, yeah, we lost. We didn't get any runs. We lost. We got shut out by the Royals. I think one thing to note though, Anthony Santander went 2 for 4 in this game, and I think it kind of started a turnaround for him this week.
100%. We're going to be
Yeah,
saying his name a lot as we go
yeah,
through the rest of this week.
yeah.
I don't know what advice Santander got. I don't know if he climbed to the top of like a Buddhist temple in Southeast Asia and like met some sort of sage who gave him advice. But
Yeah,
he's turned something on, and it's wonderful to see.
yeah.
Um, how did you feel about in this game, by the way? We just talked about Brian Baker moonwalking off the field. How did you feel about Amir Garrett of the Royals?
I
He
saw.
moonwalked off the field, and
Yeah,
then he waved at the Orioles bullpen as he did it. How did you feel about that?
I saw a lot of people on Twitter. They were pretty tight about it. I get it. Like first glance, it doesn't seem like that. Like it seems like a pretty big deal, right? He kind of like showed up our guy. I thought it was fine. Like it's Amir Garrett. That's kind of his track record is like doing stuff like that, just to try and get under the other team's skin. I don't think anybody on the Orioles honestly thought it was a big deal. I didn't think it
Well,
was a big deal.
I liked how when you were watching it live, the Orioles broadcast team was trying to say like, "Oh, like have he and Brian Baker played on the same team before? Are they friends? Are they just joshing each other?" I'm like, "Yeah, like no.
No,
No, that's certainly not the case."
no,
I did like did you hear Brian Baker's reaction to it?
no, I didn't.
They asked him about it and he was like, "Oh, I didn't even see that he did that because where the Orioles bullpen is, like you just can't see like that stuff is happening."
Right.
And he's like, "Well, he didn't strike out the side, so it's not as cool."
Yeah, that's how it should be. Like that is the epitome of a college baseball type atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
going back and forth like that.
and Amir Garrett tried to like continue it afterwards, like because people asked him about it, and he was saying all this stuff. He was like, "Well, if you can dish it, then you better be able to take it." Like he was trying to like make it into more and more of a thing, and the Orioles were just like, "Cool."
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Well, the Orioles would get the last laugh off of Amir Garrett, in the third game of the series in the rubber match. Um, Jack, were you able to watch this live? I know it was during the day on Thursday, but were you able to watch this?
I think I caught the first few innings, and then I did have to go coach. So not all
Let
of
me
it.
tell you, I watched the entire thing.
Yeah.
And if I look like I've aged about 30 years, I have never watched a game of baseball that was so mentally and physically draining to watch. To watch.
Yeah.
This was a wild game from the get-go. Um, so it started off great. I was sitting there, Thursday's my day off. I was sitting there, I was like, this is a great way to spend my day off because in the first 3 innings, the Orioles scored 8 runs. And by the middle of the third inning, the Orioles were up 8-1. And I was like, here we go. We're cruising. We are good to go. Then Kansas City would score 8 unanswered runs to go up 9-8 in the bottom of the seventh inning. And I was in the lowest place I've ever been in my life. I'm like, this is a horrible loss. This is going to set up the worst mentality for this team as they're about to go into this gauntlet of May, and they are going to lose every single game they see after this because this is going to be such a horrible loss to blow an 8-1 lead to the Kansas City Royals. Then we get to the top of the eighth. The Orioles scored 2 runs thanks to Ramon Arias, who came in as a pinch hitter for Gunnar Henderson. That puts the Orioles up 10-9. And then in the top of the ninth, Arias once again is going to hit a ground rule double that scores 2 more runs. And the Orioles have a 3-run inning to go up 13-9. So you're kind of at that point, you're feeling good, right? You're like, all right, here we go. We got a good lead now going to the bottom of the ninth inning. Felix Bautista comes in to uh, close out the game in a non-save situation. And I don't know what's going on with Felix Bautista, Jack. Overall, he's still striking guys out, but his command is nowhere to be seen. Nowhere at all. So it's a
Yeah.
non-save situation. He walks 2 guys. He's going to give up an RBI single to make it 13-10. And you're just kind of sitting there after everything we've been through in this game, which I think at this point was like 4.5 hours long. And you're just going like, oh crap. Like we're about to lose this thing in the bottom of the ninth inning. Um, and then he did close it out. He did close it out. The Orioles did win. But I tell you what, Jack, the last 2 innings of that game, I wasn't sitting down. I had to like stand and pace in my living room to watch this game.
Yeah, I mean Felix Bautista's stat line over his 1 inning of work: 1 hit, 1 run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts.
And
Like you
I
said,
think he did it in like 35 pitches too. I think it took him 35 pitches or something like that.
32.
32.
So like you said, like if the control's there and he can find the zone, like he's gonna strike you out. But I think step one is finding the control.
His splitter this year cannot hit the zone even close. Even
Yeah,
close.
I mean, like your off-speed pitch isn't really supposed to hit the zone. It's supposed to kind of dive out of the zone, but it has to be competitive, and it just doesn't seem very competitive.
Well, that's the thing is it has to look like it's going to hit the zone,
Right.
and that's what made him so deadly last year is his splitter would follow the same path as his fastball and then drop.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and
now, I mean, it's not even close. Like the catchers are diving to stop the ball
yeah,
as it's going 3 feet out of the zone.
yeah.
And I don't know like what else to say for Felix Bautista other than he's got to work with the Orioles pitching staff to get that timing down. That's what Ben McDonald was saying on the broadcast. He said that it's a release time issue. Um,
Dude, throwing a splitter is so hard that I won't even try to fathom how to throw a splitter. Because I mean, you gotta have big enough hands to be able to throw it. Because I mean, you throw it like that.
yeah.
I,
Do
I would
do you
say that
think
there's
it's a
something wrong, but he's got a 184 after this game.
yeah? I mean, I just don't know. We're gonna talk about him more. We're gonna talk about him more because there's
Yeah.
stuff that happened today. So let's after that. So Orioles took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. They then went to Atlanta Friday night. Um, Friday
Hold on,
night was a
you forgot to mention who pitched for the Royals in that game.
oh yes,
Jordan
the
Lyles revenge tour.
Jordan Lyles revenge tour that was not to exist as you have to think, Jack. It's got to be unfair as a pitcher to go up against your former team, like the team you pitched for last year, because they're gonna know everything that's coming their way.
Yeah,
They know your bag of tricks. They taught you your bag of tricks in some cases.
eight
Um,
runs.
yeah, 8 runs off him. I mean, I felt a little bad. That what's that meme of the guy like behind the other guy like about to shoot him and he's like crying. That's kind of how I felt
Yeah,
taking down Jordan Lyles.
yeah. And then Amir Garrett had a clunker of an outing. 3 runs, all earned over an inning.
That I said that when the Orioles scored on Amir Garrett, they should have moonwalked across the home plate because they had enough time. They could have done that. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
but Brian Baker didn't look great either.
No, 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 he did not. Granted, I don't think a single pitcher in this game looked great at all. Not a single one.
Yennier Cano.
Okay, Yanier Cano did look great, but Yanier Cano always looks great. Okay, actually, he even gave up his first run in this game, so he wasn't as great as he has been. I don't think the run was necessarily charged to him. I think it was charged to whoever
Yeah,
came in
no,
before
it
him.
wasn't. It
But
was
he did
charged
give up
to
a hit that
Danny.
scored a run. He gave up an RBI.
Well, it wasn't charged to him, so his ERA is still 0.
All right, well, we'll split some hairs there.
To Atlanta.
To Atlanta, said Sherman. Okay. Orioles
Wow.
would go into Atlanta. This was a high stakes series. We had called it from a while ago. We came into the series. Atlanta had the second best record in all of baseball, and the Orioles had the third best record in all of baseball. So this was a lot of national attention was placed on this series. Friday night was just a fun game. Dean Kremer was going up against Max Fried, and you needed Dean Kremer to be the Dean Kremer we've seen glimpses of in the past, but not the Dean Kremer we've gotten basically all of this year.
Yeah.
And Dean delivered. He went 6 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits, only 1 run, 2 walks, and he struck out 3. Those numbers won't blow you away, the 3 strikeouts, but ultimately, I will take this outing from Dean Kremer every single day.
It's not really Dean's MO to strike a bunch of guys out, anyways. So when you can hold this Braves offense to 1 run over 6 innings, man, I'll take 3 strikeouts if you're only going to let up 1 run.
100%. Meanwhile, Max Fried, who is is it fair to say that he's probably the second best pitcher on this Atlanta staff behind Spencer Strider?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, 100%.
Max Fried came into this game, I think, with like a 2.08 ERA. It might be that he has a
Lower than
2.08
that,
ERA now.
pal.
I think he had less than a 2 ERA coming into this
He had
game.
a .54 going into the game.
0.54. So now he has a 2.08 ERA, which tells you what the Orioles did to him because the Orioles scored 7 runs off of Max Fried.
And who
Uh,
spearheaded it? Tell me, who spearheaded the movement of the
um,
O's
um,
offense?
this guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Jack. His name is uh Anthony Potatoes Santander.
Potatoes.
Well, he's Tony Taters, but they were saying on Twitter when he hit that grand slam that he's now formally known as Anthony Potatoes.
What?
You've never heard that? You've heard him called Tony Taters before, right?
Yeah, I got that, but
But now his formal name is Anthony Potatoes.
okay.
I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was great. It's got you laughing, which means it's done its job.
When you have 5 RBIs, you can call yourself whatever vegetable you want. I don't care. 2 for 5, 5 ribbies. You know,
But
he's
those
cutting
those
down the
five
strike.
ribbies came off of a solo shot to the chop house, by the way,
Yeah.
massive shot, uh, and a um, and a grand slam. Or did the grand slam go to the chop house? I forget which, but he hit home runs from both sides of the plate. First time in his career, I think Cedric Mullins pointed out, first time in Santander's career that he hit home runs from both sides of the plate and they won the game. It's because remember last year was such a big deal that anytime Anthony Santander had a 2 home run game, the Orioles lost until finally he had a game where they won after he hit 2 home runs. This is the first time he's hit one from both sides of the plate and they've won.
It's another tough outing for Mike Baumann in this one. He
Yeah.
couldn't get out of his second inning of work. And I do think that Mike Baumann's a 1 inning guy. I just don't think his stuff's good enough to be out there for 2 innings. So I think, Brandon Hyde will probably recognize that next time out when Baumann pitches and limit him to one inning because all those runs came in that second inning.
And that's where it gets so important with this Orioles starting pitching rotation is we have a lot of guys that are 1 inning guys, right? Like Brian Baker is a 1 inning guy. Cianel Perez, when he pitches well, which hasn't been much this season, but Cianel Perez is a 1 inning guy.
Yeah.
Mike Baumann, I think Danny Colomb might be like he can be a 2 inning guy, but for the most part, I really only trust him for 1 inning. So it's really, really important that these starting pitchers go long enough that your relief pitchers only have to come in for an inning, because
Yeah.
that's most of what the Orioles have. And when you get Dylan Tate and Michael Givens back, I don't think you're getting like when I think of Dylan Tate and I think of Michael Givens, they're 1 inning guys too. Don't get me wrong, they're good 1 inning guys, but I wouldn't stretch them beyond 1 inning.
Yeah, and we don't have a starting staff that's good enough for all of our relievers to be 1 inning guys.
Right, exactly. So that's something that the Orioles are going to have to think about as they move forward with their bullpen, which was taxed coming into this game. That was really the big thing with Dean Kremer going those 6 innings pitch is you just had a marathon game the day before where you won a 13-10 game and used almost every pitcher in your bullpen. It was really, really important that Dean Kremer gave a solid outing, and he did. He delivered that. Mike Baumann did have to make it interesting by giving up that 3-run home run. But overall, very solid win for the Orioles. I think everyone was on this massive high after this win.
Yeah, it's a big win. Braves are the best team in the NL.
And for a brief moment there, Jack, for a brief moment, the Orioles had overtaken them to have the second best record in all of baseball.
What a glorious 24 hours.
Yeah, glorious 24 hours, and then we get to game 2. This was the Fox nationally televised game. Did you watch this, Jack? By the way, did you watch this nationally televised game?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I was out celebrating the old birthday.
Well, so you probably had it on mute then. You were probably like in a bar watching it or something like that.
This is
Um,
accurate.
I I watched this. It scared the crap out of me when I turned on Fox because the Fox intro. So there were two games Fox was showing. They were showing Orioles, Braves, and then Red Sox, Phillies. And the whole intro for Saturday Night Baseball was Red Sox, Phillies, and I was about to be really mad if the Orioles were on a nationally broadcast event, and I live in Baltimore and they weren't going to be shown. If they were going to get blacked out here, I was going to write to Rob Manfred myself. I swear.
I mean, with Masson, would you be surprised?
I wouldn't, but I figured with those like national broadcasting rights that kind of overruled Masson, you know.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I guess that I don't know necessarily how broadcasting TV contracts work. But uh, long story short, my brief moment of anger turned out to be nothing because the Orioles did get shown locally, which was good. This was a big game that we kind of had highlighted going into it because of who was pitching on the other side. Spencer Strider has been a highlight reel time and time again for the Braves this season. He had a great season last year, which last year was his rookie season, right?
correct.
Um, so he's a young guy who has positioned himself to be, if not the best pitcher in all of baseball, perhaps the best pitcher in the National League. Um, the man is good. I
I would
mean,
call him. I would call him the best pitcher in the National League for sure.
yeah. Um, and so he went up against Kyle Bradish, and kind of the same deal. Kyle Bradish, with Dean Kremer, uh, we needed him to pitch really well. I would call his start okay. Went one inning less than Dean, so he went 5 innings pitched. He gave up 5 hits, did give up 3 runs, 2 walks, 4 Ks, and he gave up a home run. Um, but ultimately, it was a start that kept us in the game, and that was what was important. Um, what I really liked about this, Jack, is I liked the Orioles' approach against Spencer Strider because
Yeah,
they did get 2 runs off him, which I think anytime you get a run off of Spencer Strider, that's a big deal. Um, but the Orioles struck out 10 times, but almost every single time they struck out, it was like a full count. It was a 3-2 count. They fouled off a couple pitches. The Orioles really took in stride understanding who they were going up against and saying, hey, we're probably going to strike out to this guy a lot, but let's make him throw pitches. So even though Spencer Strider had 10 strikeouts, he was pulled after the 5th inning because he was at 95 pitches. And I thought that was just a brilliant move. I don't know if it was Hyde. I don't know if it was the batting coach. I don't know who like sat down the team and said, hey, with Strider, just make it about taking as many pitches as possible so that he's run out of the game sooner. But I thought that was a brilliant strategy.
I mean that's what you have to do with any ace on the mound, especially a guy like Spencer Strider. That's about all you can do. You know he's going to strike you out, so go up there and put up some good at bats. It's exactly what the Orioles did. They might have struck out 10 times, but they chased Strider after 5. This game could have had a very, very different outcome if we don't get his pitch count up and chase him after 5 innings.
Yeah. And then in the very next inning, the Orioles are going to get that lead back thanks to an Anthony Santander double and then an Adam Frazier RBI on a fielder's choice. Um, it was a really good inning. Anthony Santander hot again, and that double, by the way, this close. I mean, he was this close to a home run. It hit off that center field wall, that close to a home run. Um, really seemed like the Orioles were going to cruise from there. A lot of excitement, and then who should come up in the 8th inning? But a guy who has cursed the Orioles since the day he came into the MLB. And no matter what jersey he's wearing, he always dominates the Orioles. Kevin Pillar hits a 2-run home run off of Cologne, and the Braves take a 5-4 lead.
Yeah, and it's hard to hate Kevin Pillar because he's been hit in the face by a pitch. He's a genuine good guy, but yeah, he's got the Orioles number.
He's a
Whether
genuine
he's
good
in the
guy if you're not a Baltimore Orioles fan.
yeah, I don't know. I like me some Kevin Pillar, but not yesterday night.
Yeah, it was tough. That was a heartbreaking loss. The Orioles would go on to lose that game. They wouldn't get the lead back. It was a game where you really like. I was feeling so high up until that point, and then I just felt miserable. Um, I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more after we get through today's game, but um, playing good teams is tough, man.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I mean, when you don't score guys when they're in scoring position, it makes playing those better teams that much harder.
Yeah, we did get a couple positives out of this game. My biggest positive we got out of this game was we kind of got a CNL Perez statement where he was in for an inning and a third. No hits, no runs, no walks. Did have a strikeout, but he looked pretty dominant for that inning and a third that he was in. And I think for me, like personally, like I really like CNL Perez, and seeing him struggle this year has been kind of hard to watch because I like him a lot. I think he's got a lot of energy. I think he's got a lot of fire, and when he's on, he shows a lot of skill. So seeing him struggle this year has been rough. So I was really excited to see him have a good inning plus outing. But I kind of called this the game of what ifs because it felt like a game that was right there in our hands. And you could say what if for a lot of things. A lot of people were blaming Brandon Hyde for not bringing in Yanier Cano. Hyde said what a lot of us were thinking, which was Yanier Cano's pitch count during that Thursday marathon in Kansas City was like 35, as was Felix Bautista's. So he didn't want to use him because he wanted to rest him. You could say, what if Anthony Santander's double had gone a little bit higher and had been a home run for some extra run insurance? Um, you know, what if you hadn't had to use Cano on Thursday, because you went through every single one of your pitchers in your bullpen? What if he had been rested and he could have come in instead of Colomb? What if the Orioles hadn't gone 1-9 with runners in scoring position? There's a lot of what ifs from this game. I don't think you could pinpoint this on any one person. I think a lot of people are trying to find someone to blame for it, but I just think all in all, it was just there was a lot of factors that went into this loss.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we went into today with a rubber match, an 11:30 start time.
So weird.
I gotta say, I don't like these Peacock games specifically for that. I don't like that you're having brunch and and trying to follow the Orioles. It doesn't make any sense. Granted, I'm not having brunch. I'm working, but
I
it's
tell you
just
what, I had some brunch today, pal.
yeah.
I had
Was
some
it good
brunch
brunch?
today. It's great brunch. House Not Bagel, shout out.
What'd you get?
Western omelet. No other way to go.
Oh, that sounds good. That's a good brunch.
It's really good.
It'd
Although I didn't get to watch the game.
They didn't have the game at the brunch place for you?
Well, it's a bagelery. It's no sports bar.
Okay, so all right, a bagel. So they didn't have bottomless mimosas.
No, they
Can't
didn't.
Can you even call it brunch then if there's no bottomless mimosas?
Yes, you can.
Are
Yes,
you saying it's just brunch because of the timing that you got it?
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I gotta say, if there's no mimosas, is it really brunch, or is it just a late breakfast? I call that a late breakfast.
It might have been a late breakfast. All late this morning.
Well, the good news for you, Jack, is that you didn't miss a whole lot of action in that game. while you were having your late breakfast. Uh, the good news of this game was that the Orioles pitching was great. The bad news was that the Orioles offense was awful. Um, it was a 1-1 game going into the ninth inning. The ninth inning would end still as a tie game, and so went into extra innings. And in the top of the 10th, the Orioles would go up 2-1, and Felix Bautista came in the situations that he's there for. And after the ghost runner was moved up to third, uh, his splitter went wild, and the runner from third scored, and he blew the save because he couldn't have control over that splitter. It would eventually get to the 12th inning, and Atlanta would walk it off, and the Orioles would lose 2 out of 3 in Atlanta, which is our first lost series since almost a month ago. It was our first lost series since we lost to that series to the Yankees for the home opening series. We had 7 straight series wins leading up to that point. Certainly a heartbreaker. Jack, how are you feeling after that Atlanta series?
I think we went into it knowing this was going to be one of the bigger series of the year, right? So taking one, not getting swept, I think is step one, and we didn't do that. We took 1 of 3. I'm not worried that we lost this series at all. Yeah, it stinks that we can't keep the streak of winning series going, especially when it was so close when we had a lead in extra innings. Um, yeah, it's the Braves, man. It's the Atlanta Braves. They're good. We faced Strider, and then Bryce Elder's he's no schmuck either. This whole Braves team, there are no schmucks on that team. I tell you what. But I thought we played pretty well. A couple balls roll the right way for us. We might have a series win. I just think that the big thing that's standing out from today's game, though, average with runners in scoring position.
How many times did they have the bases loaded? I think they had the bases loaded twice
Uh,
in this game, and they couldn't bring anyone home.
1 for 14 with runners in scoring position.
Oh, oh, that's so bad.
It stinks because, like you said, Tyler Wells was fine. Bullpen Austin Voth was great.
Yeah, Austin Voth had kind of a statement game. He's been now that he's not giving up a home run first pitch every time he comes into a game, he's looking good.
Yennier Cano was great. Mike Bauman righted the ship. Just Bautista.
I think for all of Orioles fans who were kind of coming into this series, I know for me, you kind of touched on it, Jack, that like we came into the series recognizing, okay, now we're entering the gauntlet, right? Now
Yeah.
we're actually playing really good teams, and we didn't know what to expect. And you had that Friday night game where you scored 9 runs, and you kind of felt really good going in, and you got all this confidence, like, oh yeah, we're here. We like our time is now. And you had 2 games that were winnable. That's the thing. We didn't get blown out by Atlanta at all. We blew them
Yeah.
out one night, but they didn't blow us out at all. 2 games that were winnable that we lost, I think was a really big downer. I think that was a really big downer. But I think the silver lining is, when I talked about those what ifs, you figure like 2 things go differently, and we're talking about a sweep. Like that's the thing is it's a 1-2 loss of the series, but it was almost like a little bit of bad luck that changed it, and it could have been we could be talking about a 3-0 sweep of the Atlanta Braves right now, in which case I don't know about you, I'd be punching my ticket to the playoffs, certainly maybe even the World
Yeah.
Series. I'd be like, we got this. We're
Yeah.
ready to go. But it kind of sobers you a little bit to lose those games that were right there.
Yeah, and I mean going into tomorrow, huge series against the Rays.
I saw one prediction that I hope is really true. And that was someone was saying that the Orioles are going to be coming in with a chip on their shoulder,
Yeah.
knowing that they had this series in their hands twice. Twice they had this series in their hands and they blew it late. And they're going to come in angry and maybe put that to good use towards trying to take down the Rays, who very few people have been able to take down this year.
The juggernaut.
Um,
We got a Grayson Rodriguez start coming up in this Rays series too. I think it's a really good shot for him to turn it around after a blow up outing in Kansas City. So I think spirits are still high, man. Spirits are still high going into this next series. Braves are a tough team.
I think it's good experience for the team right now too. The thing to remember, because we had such a good April. I heard someone say this. Playoff tickets are not punched in April, but
For anybody.
they can certainly be lost in April. And I think the Orioles have set themselves up in a really good position as we're entering this gauntlet of we just had the Braves, we're going up against Tampa Bay, then it's Pittsburgh, then it's the Angels, then it's the Yankees. Like we have like this May is going to be a hard month. And we kind of said it a couple weeks ago. We said if the Orioles can go 500 in the month of May, they're still going to come out into June 10 games above 500. I will take 10 games above 500 in June any day. I
No
know it
doubt.
kind of stinks a little bit because you're constantly looking at those standings and the Orioles being in the juggernaut that is the American League East. They'll probably drop down to third at that point, or they're going to lose ground against the Rays. But I think overall in the league, if you're 10 games above 500 in June, you're still in a really,
Yeah.
really good place. And I think that's
Hmm.
something that everyone has to keep telling themselves to calm down when we lose these close games against now good opponents.
Right. Well, speaking of good opponents, what we got on the slate for this week, huh?
Yeah, this is gonna be a good week of baseball, I think, in Baltimore. The Orioles are returning home. I think that's something to remember about this Atlanta series as well. This was the Orioles' longest road trip. So they played, I think, 12 games on the road in 14 days. It's a long, long road trip. So kind of when we go to those what ifs, like what if the Orioles had played the Braves at the beginning of the road trip as opposed to the tail end of this really long road trip.
Mm-hmm.
But the Orioles are coming back home this week. They're going to play 3 games against Tampa Bay, who again holds the best record in the MLB. Um, that starts tomorrow. They have the day off Thursday, and then they have 3 games against the Pirates, who, as you mentioned, Jack, they were at one point holding the second best record in baseball, but they have lost 7 games in a row. Fun fact, not something you want to do, as
Never
Jack
something
pointed
you
out.
want to do, you know.
Yeah, not something you want to do. For all of you watching who are not baseball experts, losing 7 games in a row, bad.
No
Um,
bueno.
but they've slipped a little bit, so they seem a little bit vulnerable right now. They have the fifth best record in baseball, so they are behind the Orioles as far as their record. But I still would expect that to be a pretty tough series as well.
It's a tough week in general. It's a tough week in general. I haven't looked at the pitching matchups for who we're gonna get from Tampa Bay. I would assume whoever they send out there, pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think it matters who Tampa Bay sends out because they're
right,
going to be good.
right. But I think that we're gonna need to pitch. Everything's gonna be need to fire on all cylinders to beat the Rays, especially to get a series win against the Rays. Tomorrow, Kyle Gibson versus Shane McClanahan.
Uh, all right, Kyle. All right, Gibby. We're gonna need you. We're gonna need
All
Gibby to eat
right.
innings.
Dude, I might try and make it down for that one.
I had tickets for that one actually. I ended up exchanging them uh because I got some other stuff going on that I can't make the game. But I was a little disappointed because I think one thing that's going to be big is I think the fans coming back to Camden Yards is going to be a really important thing because when you're playing opponents like the ones that the Orioles are playing in the month of May, that's basically October baseball in May. These
Yeah.
these are teams that are in position to possibly make the playoffs. and you kind of want that playoff atmosphere now. And you saw that in Atlanta. I mean, they sold out every single game, even like the 11:30 game this morning. And the broadcasters were
Yeah,
talking about it.
forty
They're like,
thousand people.
"Yeah, it's wild." Like the broadcasters were talking about it. They're like, "This feels like October baseball, and it's May 6th."
Mm-hmm.
Like it and I think when you have that, it does give your team a little bit extra juice.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so I think it's going to be really important that folks show up this week, and this whole month, to show this team support and try and get them that extra little boost.
The weather's nice. Head down to the yard.
Yeah, and don't forget, end of the month, you can get your tickets in sections 96 and 98 on May 30th and join the splash zone as we try to help create that atmosphere.
There you
Uh,
go.
don't forget, you can also, if you want to join the Orioles celebrations, you can get your very own dong bong on birdlandsports.com. If you go to birdlandsports.com/upod street, a portion of your purchase will go to supporting the pod, and you can use code upod street at checkout, and it'll take 10% off all your Birdland Sports orders.
10%.
10%. And I think they're only selling the dong
Wow.
bong for like $15. So you
Wow.
can get it for like $13.50. That's a deal.
10%. That's a deal if I've ever seen one before. I tell you what.
They have a really good Cano shirt. I think we talked about it last week, where his little stance, his little stare down stance
Mm-hmm.
is the A. I thought
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool one.
To wrap, do you want to hit certified question merchant Brady Bain?
Yo, he's got a long one here. I haven't been able to read it yet.
All right, the question is, I have seen a lot of backlash, especially on Twitter, regarding Brandon Hyde's in-game decisions, such as bullpen management this series. Any thoughts on Brandon Hyde this series and the season overall?
I'm not gonna to criticize Hyde for this series too much. I think we kind of hit on that the bullpen was exhausted,
Yeah.
and he kind of making the best decisions he could based on the rest that the bullpen was on. I think he's definitely experimenting a lot. I mean, we saw last night Ramon Arias at first base. We didn't talk about this. How did we not talk about this? Ramon
Yeah,
Arias.
excuse my language, what the hell was that?
I don't know. Um, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. He
He
did
used Ryan
well.
Mountcastle's glove. He didn't even have a
Yeah.
glove.
Ryan Mountcastle DH'd. They want to give Ryan Mountcastle a day off from fielding. They did not use James McCann, who has been their backup first baseman, it seems. And they used Ramon Arias, who did play well. I will give him this. Ramon Arias played well at first base. But he was kind of like, I think he even said in interviews, they told me that I was going to play first base, and I was just like, okay.
I think
If you
that's
say
the only
so.
one, like in the part of the question, like regarding the season. I think that like just kind of lineup alignment, like putting guys in different spots, because that's his only like flaw in my eyes. Because like when you're winning as many games as you are, like don't change what you're doing. You know.
Yeah, it's also one of those, like, Adley got the day off today. You're in a rubber match with the Atlanta Braves, and
Yeah,
Adley
that's.
Rutschman gets his first day off of the year.
Well, granted,
He did
playing an
end up
eleven
coming in
thirty
later.
game, playing an
Yeah.
11:30 game after a night game, I get it. Look, I like really hard. I caught a full inning on Saturday morning, and I woke up, pal, and I was hurting. I was hurting. So
I
I get it. I get the day off when you got an 11:30 game the next morning.
but at the same time, in the same breath, Adley Rutschman hasn't had a day off all year. Why suddenly now against the Atlanta Braves?
I think because of the timing. Like when afternoon game that's not nationally televised, 1 o'clock, fine, DH him.
Yeah. I
Sorry, I
think
keep that.
the one thing we haven't talked about this yet either. This isn't necessarily a Hyde call. I think Hyde probably has some decision in it as
Yeah.
well. But I think this is a Mike Elias thing. How do you feel about the Orioles now suddenly carrying 3 catchers again?
Oh, what the? I mean, yeah, I get it. Maverick Hanley gets injured on the Tides. We need some more depth in the organization. Fine. Put Torrens, AAA team. Fine. No problem. I get it. Icy Torrens has been activated and put on the major league club.
And
What?
they sent down Ryan O'Hearn,
For
who guess what is a backup first
plays
baseman.
first base.
And so when you're looking for someone to give Mountcastle a day off at first base, you're putting Ramon Arias, who's a left side of the infield guy. You're putting him at first base.
I don't get it. And
That
Torrens
I
didn't
don't
even
get. I
Torrens
don't
didn't
think
even
that's
play,
on
right?
Hyde. I don't think that's on
No,
Hyde.
it's not.
I think
No.
that's an Elias thing, but I don't understand it. And I'm an Elias defender for the most part. I defend a
Yeah.
lot of what Elias does, and I don't get it at all.
And Torrens didn't even play, right? At all this weekend.
No, he didn't play once. And James McCann as a backup catcher has been pretty good.
He's been great as a backup.
He's way better than Robinson Chirinos was.
Happy retirement, Robinson. Smell
Yeah.
ya.
I thank you for the vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some things going on with this that are certainly questionable. I don't question Hyde's bullpen usage too often. I think the only times I start to question it is when some of those guys that we recognize as 1 inning guys go out for a second inning. I think that's where I start to question it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times he is kind of tied to whatever the rest of the bullpen happens to be. So
Yeah,
I'm not going to give him too much grief for that.
Yeah. I think my last thing to wrap, RIP Vita Blue. Flamethrower for the A's passed away today at the age of 73.
Saw that. Always sad when a legend goes.
Yeah, it stinks.
But sometimes when a legend goes, a legend also begins. Because guess what, Jack? We are now on TikTok. That's right.
Oh, that was the segue you chose for that? Oh.
Maybe not the best segue.
Oh.
A legend is born.
Follow the TikTok, I guess.
Yeah, follow UPod Street on TikTok at UPod Street. We will have clips of the shows on there. We'll have maybe a quick shout outs when we're at the games or things like that on there.
Yeah.
But we have one TikTok up right now, and it's promoting our Splash Zone event on May 30th. Come to the Splash Zone event, sections 96 and 98. May 30th. Be there. Be square.
Be there.
All right, Jack.
Anything else?
I think that wraps it up for this week. Keep your chin up, guys. I know it's our first series loss in a while. It won't be our last one this year, but we're going to get through it together.
We will.
All right. Go O's.
Go shout out real quick. Thank you, everybody, for celebrating the whole birthday today. Shout out to Tina, Sam, Matt, anybody else who's watching. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, wait till you're my age. You won't like to celebrate them as much.
Good old
All right.
23.
Have a good week, everyone. You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter at UPod Street and at JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.